I didn't dare to be as hopeful as that, but I knew that I was going to fight for the rest of my life.
Hamid, when the release finally came, did you believe it?
A lot of times that you have that hope inside your brain, it just gets shattered because you go through the day. None of the officials, they want to talk to you. The letter that you're sending to them, you get no reply from them. And the family, they just they go around and they try to talk with the officials. They just don't give them a right answer.
What was it like when you walked out of the prison?
I knew a day before I was released. They told me that tomorrow you're going to go see the judge, and he gave you 5-year sentencing, and because you served more, and you're going to be released tomorrow. I was happy, but I felt that my brother's life, that he lost it. It was just lost for nothing.
And Antonella, has this experience changed your life together?
Yes, it certainly has. We are committed to each other, but things are not, all roses. And it's certainly difficult to get back to living our dream. But I think we'll make it.
So you're still suffering the after effects, really?
I think so. I think we both are very much on guard. I certainly speak for myself, and probably more defensive than I need to be. And I don't know if Hamid will admit it, but I see that in him too.
Is that true, Hamid?
I can't deny it. It's true. I could, sometimes I could see it in myself that, it's normal. It could be worse, You got to look at it this way. It could be much worse. And, spending 5.5 years in prison, spending 1.5 years in solitary and being on a death row for over 4 years is not easy to come up right away, like within a year or two. It takes time for healing. And I think we already start to heal.
Hamid Gassemi Shal and his wife Antonella Mega speaking to me from Toronto in Canada. This is Outlook. Now, as a young marine biologist starting his career, Matt Lewis was excited to be offered a job as scientific officer on board a deep-sea fishing boat. It was 1998, and the boat, the Sudur Havid, was sailing from Cape Town to fishing grounds near South Georgia in the Southern Ocean. But the voyage ended in disaster and shipwreck, and out of a crew of 38, 17 were lost. It took Matt years to find the strength to go back to those events and write his own record of what happened. The result is his book, Last Man Off. He told me about the day the ship went down, when he was working in the factory part of the vessel.
I saw life jackets being thrown across the factory to different people. There wasn't one for me, and I knew we had to get out. The factory was enclosed. I didn't want to get stuck in a factory in an upside-down boat.
And where did you go?
When I got up on deck, I managed to find a life jacket, and I found the rest of the crew. There was probably a half a dozen of us had been trying to save the ship at the end down the factory, but the other 32 or so of the crew were up on deck, ready to go. They were all getting life jackets on and oilskins and things. Just everybody was basically ready to abandon.
And when was the order given to abandon ship?
Never. Nobody ever gave an order.
But people just started to get off into the life rafts.
Well, we deployed the life rafts, so I actually helped one of the guys to push the life rafts into the water. We got those into the water, 3 in the end, and there was still no abandon ship order, but basically I started yelling at people to make their way to the back of the ship and to keep calm, like actually telling them, keep calm, you'll be fine, we'll be fine, just keep calm, move to the back of the ship.
You were the last man off the ship, I think.
I was.
How did that happen?
I didn't set out to be, but I was worried that we would leave somebody behind, and so I kept going back to check that there was nobody else out on deck, and then I jumped. I was the last man off.
And were the life rafts robust and strong?
No, you're talking about flimsy paddling pools with a roof on, basically a tent on the top. They're inflatable rubber rafts, and they've just got a thin canvas canopy. And while in your head you think that they're going to be invulnerable, that they will save you, be a sanctuary, the truth is they're quite fragile.
And they're on top of these 10-metre waves. I mean, the waves are crashing over you, presumably. It must have been a pretty difficult scene.
And there were bigger problems for us because the life raft that I got into was then hit by the boat. We were actually pushed down underwater by a huge metal gantry, an arch, and it crushed the life raft, flooded it, and sadly it knocked some of the guys on the head. It didn't kill them, but it certainly injured them. And basically we were left in a flooded life raft with the water around us at -1.
And how many people were on your life raft?
17.
So there were 17, some of whom had been injured by this falling gantry from the boat. The water was coming into the life raft?
Yep, we had waves coming in. We used a few Wellington boots to try and bail, and every time we bailed a few litres of water, then a huge wave would crash into the raft and flood us with even more. So,
and this is -1 water. Presumably people started to suffer from the effects of that.
yeah, seawater freezes at about -1.7, so it was really cold. A lot of the guys, I think, were rendered useless by the cold water just as soon as it hit us. It's called cold water shock.
What sort of symptoms were you experiencing?
By the end, with me, it was numb legs, completely numb legs, and just a slowness in my mind. I knew where I was, and I knew what was happening, but I just could not make decisions or do things as fast as I wanted to. I was stiff.
And people were dying on board your life raft?
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time, and that sounds very strange, but I think your mind blocks it out. And I think also I saw them go quiet, and I thought they were just unconscious. I didn't know they were dead, but in retrospect, yes.
And you were kneeling on some of the dead bodies, weren't you?
Yeah. I think I knew that I was kneeling on bodies, and it was later on you realise that actually you were kneeling on the corpses of your colleagues, your crewmates. These are guys that you've been working on deck with just a few hours before. You're kneeling on them to stay alive, but it sounds heartless. I just didn't care if they're dead and under the water and they'd slipped out of their life jackets. So then it didn't matter that I was using them to stay alive.
And do you have time to be frightened, to be terrified, or does your mind slow down so much that you don't feel those emotions?
I wasn't scared so much as sad that this was the way that it might end. I didn't want it to end that way, and I was trying not to give up hope, but it was hard to believe that we could be rescued. We were adrift at night in an unlit life raft, and I didn't know where the nearest boat could be.
So how were you rescued?
Well, just after sort of 3.5 hours at sea, I was fighting to get the canopy of the life raft closed again. It had blown open by the wind, and then the life raft canopy was ripped out of my hands, and I saw a light, and I thought, I must be making this up. And then I saw it again, the swells moved, and I saw a light. It's like, it's a boat, and that was it. Another fishing boat had raced through the storm for over 3 hours. She'd pushed herself as hard as she could, and the skipper had found us within half an hour of arriving on the scene, in the blackness of a Southern Ocean night.
And you had no lights to alert them?
No, they'd found the other life raft first. So they found another life raft with 14 guys in it, and they had a strobe on top. So they'd caught the attention of the boat. And as they were recovering the people from the first life raft, they saw us just drifting maybe 70 metres, 200 feet away, unlit in the night. We were picked up in a spotlight. So how lucky we were.
That must have been an amazing moment for you.
Yeah, I started screaming and saying, I can see a boat, and trying to whistle. I had a whistle in my pocket I pulled out. I was blowing, but it wouldn't work, and it wasn't working, and then we were screaming at the top of our lungs. Help, help.
And what was it like when they hauled you on board? Was it easy to get on board, first of all, because the sea must have still been running very high?
The seas were still huge.
You're low down in the life raft, they're high up on the ship. Was it easy to get on board?
The fishing boats are big as well. The top deck is still, a story or two above you, and then we would drop away so we could see the under the boat. And then I tried to hold on to a rope they threw, and my hands wouldn't work. My arms just were stiff, and my fingers wouldn't close around the rope, so I couldn't actually help. So on one swell, it lifted me up, and I just threw my arms up like a kid wanting a hug. And I just threw my arms up, and on the next swell, they plucked me off.
Grabbed you by your arms?
Yep.
And pulled you on board?
They grabbed my deck suit, just heaved me up, and at one point I was dangling there with two fishermen holding me, and my legs just in clear air above the sea, thinking, oh, they're going to drop me now. Don't drop me, just get me on board.
Now, of the 17 people on your life raft, I think 10 died.
Yeah.
When
10.
did you find out that had happened?
Later in the canteen of the boat that rescued us, they took us through and showered us and stripped us and then put us in warm clothes. And then I started realising that not as many people were coming in. And then I think over the next couple of hours we worked out who had been on our life raft. I hadn't known that everybody was there, 17 people.
Now, there was an official inquiry into the sinking in Cape Town the following year. Did they apportion blame?
Yeah, they found that the master in control on the bridge, so the skipper and the fishing master on the bridge that day had fished too long in the conditions that we faced, and they should have stopped fishing and turned the boat to try and shield the hatches.
But they died in the incident?
Yeah, they both died in my raft, yeah.
When you got home, did you suffer any after effects of what had happened to you?
I tried to pretend that nothing much had happened, and I just carry on as normal. But I think a year later, really, the adrenaline wore off and things weren't working out the way I wanted with work. And I could cope with the accident, or I could cope with disappointment of everyday life. But to have both on my plate, it was just too much.
So what happened to you? How did you react?
Just basically depression. And I think for me, a lot of the damage was caused not by the hypothermia, but by looking around at my crewmates and not being able to help them. There's nothing you can do to help the crewmates that you can see suffering around you, and you can't see a way out. So to take the reader into the life raft meant I had to reimagine me being back there. I had to remember it, and that wasn't pleasant.
But I think that you have a more positive memento of this whole incident in your life, don't you?
I do. I have the best memento possible, which was the result of a drunken promise in a pub.
Tell me about that.
So, how do you thank the people who saved your life? The crew of the Isla Camilla turned from their own fishing into a storm to save us and raced through the night. And we bumped into some of the crewmen from the Isla Camilla in a pub in Stanley in the Falkland Islands, and maybe a week after the sinking. And I wanted to say thank you to them, but the only way I could say it was that I promised the man who pulled me over the side of the boat, I promised him that if I had a daughter, I would call her Camilla. And it took 11 years for me to be able to fulfil that promise, but I now have a happy little 4-year-old who's named after the boat that saved us.
Shipwreck sailor Matt Lewis. This is Outlook from the BBC.
The Manaus World Cup Organising Committee. Before I leave the city, I wanted to find out where football is played here. Bernard mentioned the Peladown tournament. It's an organised event for all the neighbourhoods in Manaus.
Hi, my name is Disica Thomas, and I'm the president CEO of TV A Crítica. We organize down here in Brazil the most beautiful, probably beautiful and largest soccer tournament in the world. Everybody plays in Manaus, even the children in the Peladinho, the small Peladão, the teenager that plays Peladão, the adult and the people that are passing the age like me, they're playing the master, the Indians, even the Indians, the ladies play, everybody plays. People in Manaus, we love soccer, we live soccer.
So tell us about Peladown and this project that you have started. What is it?
Peladão, because we say in Brazil, pelada, it's when you go out to play soccer. Down, that's something that is huge. The rules are the same as the profession. Our regulation, it's big, because imagine when you get a team from your street, a team from your factory, a team from the police people. So we have to have a very strong regulation, because we're talking about a lot of different people with different social classes, different education, so we are very strict. There's some different things, like if you get a red card, and then you have to pay balls to the communities, and we donate that for the people, for the children in the cities. So there is some different stuff that we do.
So how many people take part in this? What kind of numbers are playing Peladown?
Peladão, it's a